Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Okay. Good. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. No. Change this one. Hare Rama. Whoops. What happened there? All right, still 3 minutes to go before we start. I'm going to start a restream connection. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. All right, what's happening here? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. All right, we're supposed to be starting in 1 minute, but it doesn't look like it's happening immediately. Give us, well, hopefully less than 5 minutes, but let's see. Okay. There we go. Now it's happening. Sorry for the delay. We'll be starting in a moment, say 2.5, 3 minutes. Having some technological delays. Please bear with us. Expect to start in 2 to 3 minutes. Just adjust the title. My name is Atmananda Das, and the class will be called Life is But a Dream. Okay, hopefully that will change. Yes, there we go. All right. Today we're studying Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 28. The title is But a Dream. Times 2. Give us another 1 minute, maybe. Okay, that's done. And we're there. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone again to our ongoing adventure into self-realization and Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are broadcasting live from our pop-up temple at Houghton's Country Retreat Camp in Muriwai, Auckland, New Zealand. Just had a glorious, transcendental, spectacular weekend, Janmashtami, appearance at the Day of Lord Sri Krishna celebration, anniversary on Friday, and yesterday, the most blessed event, celebration, Transcendental Appearance Day of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Vyasa Puja. And now that you're all here together, broadcasting here from the sports room at the pop-up temple, I want you to relax. Whatever is not conducive or peaceful or helpful for your spiritual life, let it go, at least suspend it. Sit comfortably, not too comfortably. Don't want you to fall asleep. I might not allow that. Take some deep breaths and relax and prepare yourself to dive more deeply into the transcendental sound vibration afforded by association with the most wonderful, blessed personality, Srila Prabhupada, and allow yourself to just be immersed wholly and solely in the sound vibration of his chanting, the Mangala Charana. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Did you notice, or please notice what your mind was doing when that sound Prabhupada was chanting the prayers? Were you allowing your mind to be absorbed, controlling it, using it? Or was it trying to run off or engage in something else? I know there is sound in the background here, so that may be a bit disturbing. Please tolerate that. Excuse me. Something in my throat for a few days now, which has not been helpful. Excuse me. So because it's very helpful in absorbing the mind in transcendental sound, we're reading successively some of the translations of the parts of that Mangala Charana, creating of auspiciousness, Srila Prabhupada. So the third part, Vandeham, Sri Guru. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master and under the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaitacharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. And the next one, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my obeisances unto you. So I've sent out a welcome, Hare Krishna, to everyone. Please respond as you like. Say who you are, where you are, and what you would like out of this class. I may consider that or not, but please be in touch. Let me know you exist, just in case you've taken this verse very seriously. This verse says that life is a dream, and that's what I've titled this class. Life is but a dream. Let's see whether we exist or not. You'll find out today. Wait for that. Do you exist? Do I exist? Or is it just a creation, a figment of, am I just a figment of your imagination? Boo. Haribo. I am just Hari Rama. So today, continuing the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized, the entire Gita in one chapter. Text number 28, chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita as it is, text number 28. I'll say the Sanskrit myself. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatraka paridevata paridevana tatraka paridevana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Let me know you're there or that you exist. On the chat, put something in, even if it's a Hari Bol, and we can be as interactive as you'd like. All created beings are manifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Please repeat after me. All created beings are manifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what is there? So what need is there for lamentation? Report. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul, and the other not believing in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet even if, for argument's sake, we accept the atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of unmanifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper, manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes, again, unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation, either in the stage of manifestation or unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested. And only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. Notice that in the verse, the second word, the first three words are all created beings. So that gives us a hint already, because the soul is not created. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Antavanta ime deha, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, nitya shokta sharirina, but that soul is eternal, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. I'll repeat that. The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. I'll repeat that. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. Om Gyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sanyavadi Paschatadi Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Kroti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yatkripattamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, a lame man can cross over mountains, and a dumb man can compose eloquent poetry. Now, this is very interesting. As I said, the first word of the translation is all created beings. All created beings. So that Krishna is giving us a hint. We're not talking about the soul here. We're talking about the created beings. What does that mean? The body is not a being, okay, but in its conditioned state, it appears to take birth and get old, sick, and die. Excuse me. It appears that way. So this is a bit of a challenge. because we consider, now that this purport may seem a bit too complicated or complicated at all. Prabhupada goes into the full explanation of what the verse means. I think we can simplify it by saying that what we identify with, the external body and mind, excuse me, Hari Rama, is one of the symptoms of this created vehicle. Gets old, runs down, falls apart even before it dies, before it appears to die, because the body is never alive at all in the first place. It's just the soul that is energizing it, empowering it. So whether one believes in the soul or not, because the creation, the body and the mind, have nothing to do with the soul, as Prabhupada says. Look for that. The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. So right towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada, he makes it very clear, well, from spiritual point of view, the body doesn't exist. So whether one believes in the existence of the soul or not, the consideration of the body is unimportant, completely unimportant. Because from the spiritual point of view, it doesn't exist. So whatever my belief about the spiritual reality is, about, like Prabhupada says, the changing of the dress. One does not lament about changing of the dress, although when people are attached to the body, they also become attached to a certain kind of dress or clothing, and that's another thing. When the vehicle that we have, the car, the automobile that we have, gets old and gets replaced for whatever reason, we don't lament about that. We get the new car and we continue on. So what does it mean that the body doesn't exist? How can someone say the body doesn't exist? Even from the spiritual point of view, it's the energy is Krishna's energy. We're not saying it's false. We're saying it's temporary and therefore has no factual existence. The elements which make up the energy, Prabhupada mentions here the law of conservation of energy, means that the elements in some form or other that make up our present body are manifest now before they were unmanifest. Prabhupada uses the example of the skyscraper building. Before it was manifest, it was unmanifest in the earth. And after it's dismantled, collapses, crumbles, it will go back to the elements and be unmanifest. So in that sense, this body is unreal. So consider, it might be helpful to in supporting our own advancement and self-realization, understanding that I'm not the body, to think this body doesn't exist. That's certainly not a reason or justification for ignoring or neglecting the body. It's a vehicle that we have for a certain purpose, which is a very valuable purpose, to use this human form of life. Prabhupada said, keep your health very good and live as long as you can to maintain and increase service. We don't want to be attached to that, but that should be part of our service, to keep the health of the body good and strong. And anything that helps us to do that, we should accept, because it's good for our devotional service. So from spiritual point of view, from the point of view of how we can improve and increase and strengthen our own devotional service, then whatever helps that, we accept. And even the body, from the spiritual point of view, doesn't exist. It's here now, we have it. It doesn't exist spiritually. It's just chemicals, atoms, which was unmanifested before I entered the womb, and will become unmanifested again when it decays and crumbles. It goes back to the elements. Prabhupada compares, uses a very nice analogy of a dream. Consider when you wake up in the morning, any dreams that you remember, how seriously do we take them? It's just a dream. When I was younger, and I've been thinking about this recently, there's a little ditty kids would say or sing. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It was used for harmony. So when you'd have three people or three groups. First group was singing row, 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 and at the point after the third row, the second group would start singing row, row, row. So they're in harmony. And the third group, when the second group finished their third row, they would start singing row. So you have three groups harmonizing again and again. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And I never thought about it at all until recently. What are we saying? Life is but a dream. Now well, it can be understood from 2 points of view. One, that it's not real. It's just a dream. It doesn't exist. From that point of view, it's a spiritual approach. There's another way that it might be understood, in that in the mood of materialists, the atheists, who don't believe in the soul at all, that justifies eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. In other words, after death, everything's finished at death. There is nothing more. And I thought it was also interesting, significant, that Prabhupada clearly states in the beginning of the purport, non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. So how is it that someone who denies the existence of the soul is an atheist, which means they don't believe in God? Why is someone who doesn't believe in the existence of the soul called an atheist? maybe put a little answer in the chat. What do you think the answer to that is? Why a person who doesn't believe in the existence of the soul is called an atheist? See, there's no wrong answers. I have a particular response in mind, but I'd like to know what you think about that. We'll come back to that later. I also wanted to mention that Krishna began speaking to Arjuna, calling him a fool. After he listened to him, he smiled, almost pretty much laughed at Arjuna. At the same time, Krishna is going through all the different points and viewpoints of about the soul, what it is, what its description is, what its qualities are, what the effect of it is, how it exists. Can it be wet, moistened by water? Can it be cut by a blade? Can it be burned by fire? From all different, dozens of different angles, Krishna is explaining very elaborately and fully, giving Arjuna all the understanding, all the information he needs to, giving us, I should say, through Arjuna, the facility, the equipment, the support, the structures, the infrastructure to understand who we really are, basically, as an eternal, conscious, joyful, spiritual individual, eternally. So, in that sense, Krishna is Krishna is teaching us how to explain the ABCs of spiritual life to someone who may have forgotten or who doesn't know anything about it. Krishna is training us how to preach Krishna consciousness from the foundational information as provided here in this second chapter of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this is very important because we may understand from our own point of view, our own level of at least theoretical understanding, if not realization, that people are in ignorance. People are foolish. People are acting crazily because they don't have this knowledge, because they have no idea who they are. And many of them, if not most of them, don't even believe in the existence of the soul. They may be in that sense, they're atheists. Of course, many people do believe in the existence of the soul, but what it is, what its qualities are, how it acts, how it behaves, what its many qualities are, what its position is, what to speak of understanding its position in relation to the material energy, to time, to action, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Friend, and proprietor, and enjoyer. So it would be easy to condescend to these people like that. It's very easy to take the high road, be superior, look down on people. That's the reason we came into this material world, to predominate and pretend to be God and be superior. Very dangerous to allow that conditioned state, that conditioned mentality, that pride, that arrogance, that self-righteousness, mightier than thou, higher than thou, mentality to affect or to be there at all in our preaching, or sharing Christian consciousness with other people. That will chase people away. Whatever we say, unless we're humble, excuse me, and humble and genuine and tolerant, like the tree. Trinada peace and Uchena, Tarora peace and Hishina. Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sinahari. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others without expecting any respect in return. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And I would suggest that not only that chanting is also preaching. And preaching is chanting. So we can also say one can preach the holy names of the Lord in such a humble state of mind. In such a humble state of mind, one can preach the holy names of the Lord constantly. So consider that the mood that Lord Chaitanya has given us in chanting, because Shravanam Kirtanam, if we're talking about Krishna to someone else, no matter who it is, even an ignorant, innocent, a naive person, then these qualities are essential. Humility, tolerance, free from false prestige or arrogance or condescending mood, and being respectful, being appreciative, being kind, being flexible, being tolerant, being respectful, without expecting any return, any acknowledgement, any respect for ourselves. We'll speak of adoration or adulation. Which is so attractive for the conditioned soul, because we like to be glorified. From a material point of view, it's our false ego. We like that because it reinforces our our desire and attempt, excuse me again, to become God, to be God. And so if this if we can understand what Krishna is telling us, especially through the explanation, according to the explanation of Srila Prabhupada, then not only are we able to control our minds and our senses, become peaceful, happy, enthusiastic, joyful, but we can support others in becoming the same. I was speaking to one young devotee yesterday who was saying that he revealed to me that he had given up a persistent bad habit recently, quite a significant one. And it was really, he was feeling much better. And I had a sense that he was concerned that he might not, that he wouldn't, that he might slip back into that old bad habit again. And part of the reason I sense that is because he's saying that now he wants to have serious guidance, like a mentor, ultimately to be initiated. And I didn't talk about how reading Prabhupada's books was already initiation. Although the ceremony and the specific commitment to an individual, a qualified individual, is not minimized by that at all. So he he thanked me afterwards, because he told me after some time during our conversation, what the particular bad habit that he'd given up was. And that he said towards the end of our discussion that it's very rare for him to find anyone who he can trust to talk about these difficult, sensitive things. He didn't even tell me, didn't mention the bad habit in the beginning of our conversation. But later on, because of the way I was relating with him, and responding and reflecting, using empathic, reflective listening, helping so that he really got that I not only understood what he was saying, but the feelings behind it as well. He experienced that I was crossing into his world. I was leaving my world behind, crossing into his world, and actually seeing his experience, his life, through his eyes. That has a powerful, almost mystical effect and trust is developed. So we talked a little bit about that, how we need to have people who we can trust and feel comfortable to reveal things which we might not ever talk about to anyone else. Otherwise, how are we going to deal with our anarthas? If one is very strong and can deal with and transform or to purify the anarthas that exist, okay. But generally, that's very difficult because they're anarthas because we've created them. We're responsible for them. We're keeping them in place. If I have a strong attachment to smoking cigarettes, there's some taste there which I am attached to, some experience in that habit, in that bad habit. And we know most people who smoke, they know it's bad for them. In fact, they know it can kill them, but still they continue. Why? Because they get some kind of pleasure, some kind of enjoyment from smoking. So if I have a strong attachment to smoking, I'm doing it because I think that will make me happy. Materially, it may have some stimulus. It does. Otherwise, why people are so addicted to it? But I'm keeping that in place. Obviously, there are ways to give up smoking or any other bad habit. And we know that by chanting Hare Krishna, we get a higher taste, so that will replace, excuse me, the lower taste, which is actually unhealthy and destructive. And spiritually keeps us away from it blocks our own spiritual advancement. So I'm preaching for myself as much as anyone else here. Please know that. So if I have a strong attachment to smoking, I'm maintaining it unless and until I make the choice due to, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the attraction for sense enjoyment may remain, but becoming fixed in consciousness by experiencing a higher taste. By experiencing a higher taste, one can become fixed in consciousness. One can raise one's experience to the spiritual level by experimenting, by trying, by applying the basic sadhana, at least. Chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We had such an extraordinary experience here at our pop-up temple at this retreat camp, in Mirabai this weekend. I've been, for the past 6 or 7 years, I've been attending Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja celebrations, but I've been very much challenged, thinking that in my older age, not only is fasting very good for me, which may be true, physically, I mean, it may not be good for me health-wise to fast, partly on that basis, and also thinking that, well, because Vyasa Puja for me is the most important day of the year, celebrating Prabhupada's appearance day, festival, and I want to be fully awake and alive and alert and able to give myself fully and with my homage and supporting other devotees or doing some organizing or chanting, Guru Puja, whatever. I better break my fast early and go to bed early, not stay up till midnight on Janmashtami. This year, after 6 or 7 years like that, although I did break my fast about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, something light, I didn't feel like anything more the whole evening till midnight. We didn't have the feast till after 1 a.m. the next morning. I felt fully energized. I was wondering, well, what's going on? Something different here. Something this year is very different. I'm not worried about going to bed at 2 o'clock, and I ended up going to bed at 2:30 and getting up about 6 to chant rounds and be engaged, dive completely into the glorification of Srila Prabhupada. The appreciation, so much gratitude came out. And there was at least one devotee said they'd never experienced a Vyasa Puja where there was so much emotional expression, outpouring. Mother Vimala, who never cries, as far as I know, when she reads her offering, she reads the most wonderful offerings. This year she was crying like I hope I'm not breaking any confidence, but in a room full of devotees at our pop-up temple here, she was crying, seriously. And then I spoke, I think 2 people later after the children. We had the children first, in between, Jai Shila and his wife, and me. And I could hardly speak. I was choked up and crying. And so many other devotees, not only did some of the devotees speak who would never ever spoken in public before, they took the risk, they felt encouraged, they felt empowered. There was such a difference in our celebration here. There's such a difference in mood. And I mentioned this in my homage when I was not too choked up to speak, that I didn't know. I shared with them the experience of my experience on Janmashtami the day before, that things that I didn't worry about going to bed late and getting up early and not having so much sleep. having a feast at 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning. Luckily, it was an Ekadashi feast, which of course makes a difference as well. But I wasn't worried about it. I was thinking, well, what's going on? Why is it different this year? And I realized, well, it became very clear to me that the mood, the mentality of the devotees, and therefore the whole atmosphere, was completely different from what I've experienced in previous years at the other venue. I mean, I mentioned 10 years ago, who of us would have thought that in 10 years from then, we'd be celebrating Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja in a different location? Now that's someone may object to that, and that may create a whole nother controversy. But the reality for us was, not only were we so comfortable and free and empowered many times more than before, but as I said, some devotees who had never spoken in public before, they stepped up and they spoke, and they some of them were also crying, being vulnerable, and letting the heartfelt emotion, appreciation, and gratitude and love so deep for Srila Prabhupada flow in front of others. We had 70, 80 people here, more or less. So it was quite astounding. So please share on chat if you like. Anything of your experience of Janmashtami this past weekend, or Vyasa Puja, or any questions, any comments, any doubts, any realizations, please do share. We like to hear from you, or what you think about the title, Life is But a Dream, and how that possibly can be helpful, because it could be taken as a denial of reality of the soul, even the existence of the soul. So we're happy to hear from you, and you may be recovering from the extensive, demanding, full-on weekend. But we'd like to hear from you. So it's about time to finish up. Unless there's anything else, we will. But whoops. Please excuse my old throat getting in the way. So many external obstacles. And let's add something on chat, at least a Haribol. I'll read the verse again. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 28. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their intimate state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Krishna is being very kind to Arjuna, and gradually, slowly, according to his, Arjuna himself was crying. I mentioned crying during devotees' offering of homages to Srila Prabhupada, Arjuna was crying for a very different reason. He was overwhelmed. He was bewildered. He was depressed. He was weak. He was desperate. And he was desperately clutching at straws to relieve his bewilderment, his fear, his anxiety. And being an intelligent person, he was giving Krishna so many excuses, looking at reasons how to get away from this bewilderment. He was trying to solve his problems with so many excuses. But as Krishna very, very peacefully and kindly explained to him, all those excuses were based on the dream. So how many of our excuses, Hare Rama, this voice, this throat, this body is definitely not a good bargain. I'm trying to make the best use of a bad bargain. So how many of our excuses are not based on the material body? Ultimately, they're all based on the material body and mind. Mainly the mind, being the center of all the senses. And because the soul has no excuses. The soul doesn't need any excuses. There's no basis for excuses. The soul is completely free, unaffected, the source, the soul doesn't have any frog in its throat, or whatever this is. My soul doesn't have that in its throat. Doesn't have any aches and pains. It doesn't get, its feet doesn't swell up with edema as mine sometimes do. Its teeth don't fall out. Its hearing doesn't get weaker and weaker. Doesn't need any hip replacement or heart transplant. Soul doesn't need anything like that. It doesn't need any, doesn't even need to eat or sleep or drink. It's completely beyond any material effect or influence. 100%. So if it's helpful to think, as Prabhupada says, to remember, as Prabhupada says in the purport here, beyond the existence of the soul, the body has no existence. Nothing. It does. From the Vedic point of view, the soul doesn't, the body does not exist. This is the second to last sentence of the purport. We'll finish with this. Prabhupada says, the Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. So if it's helpful to think my body doesn't exist, then take it, use it. Obviously with the understanding that Prabhupada gives us. We don't deny the body, and yet at the same time, spiritually, it does not exist. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your attention and your time, and I encourage you to increase your hearing and chanting based on Prabhupada's books. Now we have 2 minutes left, so I'd like to read a letter that Prabhupada wrote to one of his disciples back in 1974. And I'd like, sometimes I'd like to read this for every single class I give. Listen to this. Prabhupada is writing from Bombay, now Mumbai. My dear such and such, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated September 24th, 1974. This devotee was in Long Beach, California. Prabhupada writing from Mumbai. I am pleased to hear that you are chanting 16 rounds daily and reading my books regularly and following the 4 rules. In my books, I especially remark noted this sentence, these two sentences. In my books, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is explained fully. So if there is anything which you do not understand, then you simply have to read again and again. I'll repeat that. If there is anything which you do not understand, then you simply have to read again and again. By reading daily, the knowledge will be revealed to you, and by this process, your spiritual life will develop. Krishna consciousness is not a hackneyed thing, but it is something which is our natural and original consciousness. Presently, our consciousness is clouded, just like a mirror. Just like a mirror becomes covered with dust. Just like a mirror becomes covered with dust. So the cleansing process is the chanting and hearing and doing some service and trying to please the spiritual master. By this process, our consciousness becomes clear and we are able to understand everything. We're able to understand everything. So far, Gayatri Mantra is concerned, of course, it is not such an important thing. The main thing is to chant Hare Krishna, but you can consult with the GBC, such and such, and get his recommendation. The Hare Krishna mantra is sufficient for becoming Krishna conscious. I'll repeat that as well. The Hare Krishna mantra is sufficient for becoming Krishna conscious. You may, and then I've noted this as well. Last sentence. You may please me the most by reading my books and following the instructions therein. You may please me the most by reading my books and following the instructions therein, and by becoming fully Krishna conscious in this lifetime. I hope this meets you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mantra Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Let us now offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, and are full of compassion, who are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, who are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Vanchakalpayascha kripa sindhuveva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.